Aloha and welcome to Island Connections. I am Brahim Aude, your host for this evening, and the topic for tonight is labor and the state, and couldn't be more of a timely topic. And we're live on the air for Oahu and the Big Island, and we would love to hear from you. And the number to call on Oahu is 956-5670. And on the Big Island, it's 1-800-342-7949. So again, Oahu 956-5670, and Neighbor Island is 1-800-342-7949, Big Island. For the rest of the state, the program will rebroadcast on Friday, so you can check your local listings. Tonight, to discuss the labor and the state situation, two people with us. Dean Aligado, he's a member of the University of Hawaii Professional Assembly, and he's board, and also he is Associate Professor of Ethnic Studies at the University of Hawaii, Manoa. And with us also is John Wittek. He's a longtime labor activist and community activist as well, but he's also a city worker. He has a lot of experience in labor issues since he worked with the United Public Workers for 26 years. He's also a PhD student at Political Science Department at Manoa, and he is also a certified teacher. And his daughter goes to school at the University of Hawaii. And I thank you both for coming, especially Dean. He was on the picket line for like the longest time. So I only did my duty 2 hours today because I was preparing for this show. So what we want to show is a video segment that gives you an idea what the faculty is thinking about now. So whenever the video segment is ready, we can go ahead and show it. So it's ready. Let's go. Yeah, so this gives us an idea about how the faculty is feeling about the strike. You know, the richest nation in the world, and then we say we don't have money for education. So any comments, Dean, on that, and also John?
Well, I can attest to the what we just saw. I think despite the efforts of the governor to try to prolong the strike and hope that the faculty will crack under the economic pressure, that spirit remains high on the line, not just here at Manoa, but especially in the community colleges and the neighbor islands. And I think the faculty is very committed to the strike until we get a fair and equitable settlement.
Yeah, John, I have a letter I was reading from the governor. I mean, this is a letter to the editor that the governor sent, and it's on, we will show it in a bit here. And in it, he mentions your name, saying that you are a long-time labor activist and so on, and that he actually disagrees with you in a letter that you wrote to the same, to the same paper, to the advertiser, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in it, for instance, he says like, let's see here. Okay, Hawaii must move forward, and then people are accusing the governor that he's not settling the strike and all that kind of stuff. And John Wittek, a longtime labor activist, fails to mention that the governor gave 17% of pay raise to the teachers in 1997, and now he's offering them 14% and all that kind of stuff. So why didn't you mention this?
Well, my letter pretty much said he must be vying to be the most reprehensible political figure ever in Hawaii. So he was rather restrained with what he said about me. But he's been playing a statistical argument game. And the teachers are I was on their picket lines this morning in the rain and wind, and their spirits are high too. But when they hear the governor bragging about this, he also lengthened their work year. And he lengthened it by they have 7 more days of school days in the year under the premise that this makes better education. The teachers, in order to get raises, have to go to school in the summer, often to get more degree credits, etc. So it wasn't a real 17% pay hike. And even after that, they're so low, I think 40 states are above them. In reality, the governor is fond of quoting statistics that don't take into account the higher cost of living here, the other expenses. And the teachers really feel this time, and the public is very strong behind them, that they have to make a stand. I guess most objectionable to me is the governor's argument, we don't have the money. And I think always he says, well, if UPA, the professors, and the teachers get a pay raise, then I have to cut from the poor. So in his simplistic budget, you have teachers, government workers, professors' pay raises, and then you have the poor. And it doesn't take into account convention center, Hawaii tourist advertising for HVB. It doesn't take into account the thousands of other items, or the simple fact the governor and the legislature have the power to raise revenues. He's the only one now in the whole government who says we cannot afford these raises.
Yeah, but here's another point, and Dean, you can jump in that even though it's in the letter, because he said another point in the letter. It says that Hawaii's people have saved $2 billion because of the tax cut that he gave them. And it's interesting that he talks about Hawaii's people saving this $2 billion. But he doesn't mention something that people who look and study the political economy of Hawaii understand, which is basically that these are tax cuts for the rich and not for the poor. The people that he tries to oppose against the UPA strikers and the HSTA members. So he's trying to play a divide and conquer tactic and saying that there's no money. Well, I mean, if there's no money, it may be because of the $2 billion he gave in tax breaks to the rich, right? But actually, there is money. Actually, UPA says that there is money. How come UPA says there's money and he says there isn't money? Is it because UPA wants the raise? Yeah, Dean.
Well,
yeah.
I think a number of our professors have studied the budget, and in fact, that's been one of the main issues of contention at the legislature, where they've had to try to open the process because it's so kept so secretive by some of the committees. So I think that's been one of the gains of the strike, is that it's opened up the process a little bit more. And some of the Friends of Labor in both the House and the Senate, who are chairs of both Finance and the Ways and Means Committee, have stated that the money is there to cover all the raises. So I think I'd rather believe those who are working with those budget rather than the budget of the governor.
Yeah. And in fact, I like it when, HSTA and UPA stand hand in hand. And it was very symbolic for the state to have both unions striking at the same time to make a major statement that there is a crisis in the public education system. And if it is in the public education system, therefore it's in the education system as a whole in this state. And this is why, I and you two have supported HSTA demands, because these are just demands and so on, if we really care about our kids' education. So and that's why we have a video to also indicate how it is that we're supportive of the strike of the HSTA, but also of the demands. And the tape shows Karen Ginoza, who's the head of HSTA, and saying what it is that they really want and why they are going to be striking if there's no settlement. So if the tape is ready, we could show that video segment as well. Okay, we roll. So, you know, here it is like some of the things that why you know, the teachers wanted these kind of demands in terms of 22% rate increase and so on, if they want to attract good teachers and retain good teachers and so on. So nobody is against like not having good teachers, yeah, but you gotta pay them to come, you know, otherwise it's not gonna happen. So any comments beyond that on this?
Yeah, I would even say, and I know HSD is always saying quality education, putting that forefront, but I think there's something in the dignity of human beings to be able to work and to be paid a decent wage. I remember when I was teaching, it's like a 60 or 70-hour work week. And then you bring home manini pay, and they're prorating your 12-month pay over 9 months. And I was just shocked at the conditions. And teachers have to buy their supplies. They have to go copy often, go outside and pay for copies of things. They have to, a lot of the wherewithal of doing the job is not there. And so, I mean, I think 22% is even minimal. They actually should, and I hope one day they can double that pay because they need it. They need that kind of income. People in Hawaii, cost of living here is 25% higher, and wages for university professors, teachers, and for most of the working people is around 25% or more below what West Coast states are paying. This is a colonial situation. Yet this governor wants to cut benefits. He wants to cut sick leave, vacation leave. His legacy to the people of Hawaii, I think, is to tame public employee unions, cut back benefits, cut retirement benefits for elderly people, and also to cut taxes for corporations, which he would eliminate totally, and cut income tax for wealthier, all people, but the wealthier people would have the greatest benefit. Now, if we do not have enough money for these pay raises that he concedes are deserved, then why is he out there urging more cuts in revenue?
Yeah,
except to boost profit.
That's true. Any other ideas on that?
Well, my wife teaches at Waipahu Intermediate and works with mainly students who are at risks, both recent immigrants in English as a second language classes, as well as special ed students. And she goes to work very early in the morning and comes home very tired late in the afternoon and puts in a lot of hours. And she goes and take classes on Saturdays, you know, to try to improve herself. But she's working with teachers who are faced with highly challenging situation. So by not providing enough compensation, and it goes beyond wages, if you really want to have good quality education, it's an investment in the future of Hawaii, as we know that. And otherwise, you know, by saying we're going to put money here and take away from the poor, actually good quality teachers who inspire a lot of those who come from lower socioeconomic status will inspire them to become better students and avoid getting into drugs, and it's good for society in the long run.
Yeah.
You know.
John, like your daughter, she's studying to be a teacher. Is she rethinking this now since there's Caetano on the horizon for her?
She's been on the picket lines and bringing pastries, because I think she recognizes, like so many students and young people, these teachers are fighting for them. The main beneficiary, I think, of the teacher strike will be the future teachers and the students, because they're going to sacrifice a lot in doing this. And they understand that. I'm very delighted and salute them for being willing to do that. But she and the other students are supporting them.
Yeah, and in fact, the human dimension is absent from Caetano's argument. He is for, as we see in his letter, if we can show the letter, he is for, we need to continue to improve, Hawaii's limited resources need to be put toward, building a better educational system. And what is he doing, He's just wiping out the better educational system. And then he's also for better government and more efficient government. This kind of thing, that dismisses the human element from this whole thing. And that is something reprehensible. I mean, nothing else can be said about it. From a governor who supposedly is the education governor, who put specious numbers like 17% and whatever to say that he is really for them. But we shouldn't only give pay raises to the teachers because we have to buy textbooks and this and that and the other thing. Well, all these things should have been budgeted already. There is money, but his priorities, it seems to me, are lopsided in favor of white elephant projects, not to mention the convention center that's already built, but there are other white elephant projects. Like in the letter, he says something about the medical school that they want to build on Kaka'ako, which is a white elephant because he thinks build it and, we will have better education and better facilities for medicine and high tech and biotech and all that kind of stuff. Everything that people would love to hear, but is it really something that is possible, and is it really something that should be opposed to the improvement in education on the K-12, for instance?
Yeah, I'd just like to return to the issue you pointed out, to the part of human element, and why the teachers and the faculty at the UH are so committed. I think the governor underestimated the fact that the economic recession that we've gone through over the last almost 10 years now, and the fact that for the UH faculty, they've worked without a contract for 2 years. They're very angry, and you can get that sense. And I think both the teachers and the faculty have basically decided that, we've had enough, and that we're standing up, and we're not going to take it anymore. And the governor's making a big miscalculation in underestimating the determination of the teachers and the faculty to try to win this fight.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, John was talking about how the students are in support of the strike. I've seen a number of students from engineering, from business, from psychology, from everywhere, walking the picket line with us, And I just have a few things to show on the Elmo here. Students in favor of strike. This is Kaleo, right? Let's see. Students in favor of strike. This is Monday, February, February 24th, okay? And then here, there's the protest rally on March 9th, 400 attend protest rally, and there's a lot of students, in that rally. So it's rather interesting that these things are happening. So actually, I just want to take advantage of this to remind our viewers that we're live on the air for Oahu and the Big Island, and we would love to hear from you. Our number for Oahu is 956-5670. And for the Big Island, 1-800-342-7949. So please call us, and we'd love to hear your questions, your comments, and what have you. I have this other thing that is interesting when Caetano was trying to say that why he's not gonna, give into the demands of UPA, as though these are like, demands of some kind of terrorist organization or something. He doesn't want to give in to the demands of UPA. So he said something, and this is, I'm here paraphrasing actually. It's Caetano saying, it was on one of the channels, TV channels. I am not the governor of HSTA and UPA only. I am the governor of all of the people. But here what he fails to mention actually is that, we're talking about students' education. And if you talk about students, what are we talking about?
180,000?
Yeah, 180,000 students. Is he the governor of these students, or what is it that we're talking about here?
I think the other thing, he's very anti-democratic. Everybody concedes this has overwhelming public support. And significant, too, is a lot of the support is from young people. So you're talking about future generations. But he's saying it doesn't matter. I'm the governor, and what I think goes. So it doesn't matter if the Senate puts the money in the budget, doesn't matter if the House doesn't agree with him, doesn't matter if almost every other elected official does not agree. He is going to stay the course.
Yeah.
And I think maybe he should consider getting out of the way.
Yeah.
If he cannot settle this, he's hardly visible at all. He's not doing very much to try to resolve it, as far as I can tell, then he should get out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think
Dean.
even though he said he's not the governor of UPA or the HSTA, he has to remember that he barely won the governorship by a very slim
That's a very
margin.
good point, yeah.
And if it wasn't for the teachers, I know he's has a lot of resentment towards UPA because the majority of the board of directors
They endorsed
Lingle,
right?
but it didn't mean that the majority of the members of UPA.
Yeah, I didn't vote for
supported
Lingle,
that.
but I didn't even vote for him the second time around.
Right, but
I made one mistake the first time.
the point is that an overwhelming majority of the HSTA probably voted for him
Yeah.
with the hopes that he would bargain with them for a fair contract, and that's why they're so bitter. And there's a lot of this sense of being betrayed, and I think this has a major impact politically in the long run in terms of realigning local politics here in the state.
Right. And, this is something interesting because if we can show this one on the Elmo also. He said that the Honolulu Advertiser this past Sunday, April 8th, on page 823, I wouldn't want to give a pay raise and keep everything the same. It just doesn't make any sense. Here again, he's doing what? He's dismissing the human element, and he's just looking at numbers and efficiency in government, despite what that efficiency, false efficiency, by the way, and very short-term look. He doesn't look beyond his nose when it comes to governmental efficiency and so on. So here again, this is the question of numbers, and these are specious numbers, to say the least.
But it's also the question divide and conquer. He's
Right.
saying, well, school maintenance monies versus wages, school textbooks versus salaries, So he's HGA, my union, the one that I'm a member of, if they get their pay raises, the faculty and the teachers, we are going to lay people off 1 day a week. This is classic divide and conquer.
Right.
And it's all sort of reflected in the mythology that somehow the government is fat. In the recession, they were to blame for the recession, which was really related to tourism, the Japanese economy, and to the fact that these guys built a economic model here, which sucked money out of Hawaii and it's subject to these kinds of booms and busts. So we have a bust, and Cayetano's answer is, well, the fault is big government, too many workers, too high pay, too many benefits, and so he's dedicated himself to trying to undermine and make Hawaii a low-wage state. To get out of a recession, his idea is put money at the top and trickle down like Reagan economics, voodoo economics. rather than, if you want to get out of a recession, give people decent livelihood, decent wages, give pay raises, and if you can afford them, and that money is going to make this economy a lot more healthy.
Yeah. This is a very important point, because not too many people focus on the economy. They focus on the teachers and UPA and the governor, you know. But in what context is this going on? I mean, this is very important thing. But let's go back to the micro level here and show that, in fact, students have really supported, you know, UPA and also HSTA. And we had a rally on the 9th of March. And here again, at the Elmo here, we have like students rally for faculty. Okay, that's what, March 9th, right? And April 3rd, on the eve of the strike, students support strike. So there you go. I mean, students understand, you know, their long-term and short-term interests, you know, and they would, you know, willing to sacrifice their short-term interests for their long-term benefit and for the benefit of future generations, because they know what's at stake, because they want to have an economy where they can work here and not go to the U.S. continent to work if they can help it. So they're looking, you know, for the long haul. But also from that March rally, we have interviewed a number of people, like students and so on. So we have a video segment here that you know, we would like to show various. The tape is ready. You know, various comments and so on. So if it's ready, please, we roll.
My name is Leah Kanehe. I'm at the law school, but I've gone to the university since '95. I did my undergraduate work here as well, and I decided to go to UH Law School because this school addresses the needs of Hawaii's people, in particular Native Hawaiians, for myself. And it was very important for me to have a university here, an institution where I could go and learn about those issues and address those issues. And that's particularly why I'm here today, is because this university is basically the only thing that we have in the state to address those needs, the different colleges and departments. And at the law school, it's very important for us to come here and support our faculty. They work very hard for us. And I think it's very exciting to see everybody here lining the streets, that we can come out in support and unity. There's not, I've done some issues on campus and trying to get people to come out and support, and it's a very hard thing to do, and you can tell that this must be very well organized and a lot of support for it, because there's people lining University and Dole Street, and the people driving by are honking their horns, and it shows that they support it too, I think.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, one student. We just asked her, and she was a law school student, and she has that fascinating, fantastic, very good position on the issues. And so she's an indication she's looking beyond the immediate, you see. So maybe Governor Cayetano should listen to students like her. We have one question from a viewer, Greg from Oahu, I believe. What can the governor do to make the situation better? Okay, so what say you?
Well, first of all, I think he should seriously negotiate. He should order Yogi to go back and meet with the teachers and the faculty to try to resolve it. Another is to really treat the teachers and the faculty with respect. I mean, things have become so polarized. And with all the comments that he's been making, he makes it seem like teachers and the faculty are not part of the community. You know, we play a very valuable role, and he needs to acknowledge that rather than trashing the schools and the university all the time.
Yeah. John, any comments
I
on that?
agree with that. I think he definitely should be less vindictive and mean-spirited. I'm impressed the lieutenant governor is going around to picket lines and talking to people. Cayetano, 4 years ago, was involved personally in the last-minute negotiations. This time you had the feeling he didn't really care. Yeah. If it broke down, fie on you, heck with you, you pay the consequences. I think he should listen to the people. Yeah. He should listen. He should be a collaborative governor. He should listen to the legislature. He should listen to the Democratic Party. They'll be meeting soon. He's out of step with his own party. if he can't do any of this, he should resign. He should get out of the way because he's undermining and he may do permanent damage to some very important institutions here.
Yeah. So that's that's a good point. So let's go to the tape again because we have another segment from someone from Leeward. So the tape is ready. So let's roll. That's the same rally.
I'm Teresa Bill, and I'm at the West Oahu campus, Center for Labor Education and Research. And this particular event is very important because it solidifies and shows that all members of the campus community think that faculty contracts are important, and that it also is a way for people to, the community to show support, people who are not part of UH in particular, but can express that University of Hawaii is an important part of our community. All the campuses are here, at least a couple people, and when you talk about student participation, the students at Honolulu Community College, where I also lecture as well as West Oahu, were very involved, and students are very knowledgeable about the kind of work and effort that their faculty do, and they're a good gauge for whether or not faculty are hard workers and actually have good skills and earn their pay.
Yeah, so that's a good a good indication also from somebody from actually she's from the Center of Labor Education and Research and teaches at West Oahu. Anyway, we have another question. Okay, so this question from a viewer, I don't know who it is. No name. But do you think Governor Caetano is not supporting the teachers' raises because he's trying to push gambling in the state? That's saying that we cannot afford the raises, we have gambling revenues. Not after Governor Caetano went to the Bahamas with, that's an interesting one, he went to the Bahamas. I don't know, what is it? Yeah, with the Taguchi, yeah. And Taguchi resigned, but Caetano stayed on, But anyway, as Caetano's chief of staff, and that's Taguchi, and became the principal lobbyist for gambling interests. Is that revealing or what? Well, what say you?
I don't know.
Yeah, me too. I hesitate to comment
up on that. It seems like he didn't, though, get behind any of the pro-gambling bills in the legislature.
Yeah, right.
He's mainly been for tax cut and various other proposals. No real new tax initiative and no gambling initiative that I know of.
But anyway,
it's an interesting question.
That brings a side issue, which is what happened at the Bahamas?
There are people out now during the strike that are getting petitions for what, lottery?
Yeah, I mean, we don't need gambling in the state. I mean, they have the money and they can create the money if education is their top priority and not another white elephant, just like the convention center. One other thing, because we have a few minutes for this particular segment, there's another video segment where we interviewed Dean, at the same rally, but it's interesting to show that. So if we're ready, let's roll.
Can't even remember what I said.
Fortunate that in his previous campaigns, he's for re-election, he's tried to cultivate the image that he's a local boy that's for public education, given his roots. I believe that he's dealing with us in this way because he has some projects that perhaps needs funding for, and unfortunately, one of the ways to fund that is to try to take it out of the races which the public unions deserve. It's not just the faculty, but the teachers and others that's supported him in the past.
Yeah, so I mean, this is, I was asking the question about why do you think he's doing all this? Why is he being that stubborn about it? So, local boy thing, I'm from Kalihi, George Ariyoshi used to say that too. But anyway, he was from Kalihi, George Ariyoshi too. So, any more comments on that?
As I recall, at that time, he was still pushing for the big fish tank, the aquarium, at that time, and there was an effort, I guess, at the legislature to come up with the money, which was shut down.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I think whenever someone calls himself the education governor
Yeah.
or says, I'm from the working class, get ready, watch your wallet or be careful because, you know, maybe he is from the working class, but he's a long way from the working class now. It was like having an education president. That meant, God, all the attacks that would come down. But I think apart from his own pet projects, what's gone on here and nationally and around the world is a push for privatization, which means give to the corporations more public or give to private contractors public service work, and then you get your kickbacks if you're a politician in campaigns. Reduce taxes on the wealthy, get rid of estate taxes, cut income taxes on corporations and the wealthy. And to do all that, you scale down social services, education, health, you hike tuitions, you hike hidden taxes on people, fees for service. And that is the Cayetano plan. I have to admit, he pretty much said he would change things and indicated this was sort of the direction he's going. How he got endorsed by labor is beyond me, but it was probably because they saw he was the lesser
of two evils.
But I think that's the program in place here, and it's going on all over the place.
Yeah, that's too bad, actually. But anyway, Jerry Burris, in one of the commentaries, actually it was on the editorial page on Sunday, this past Sunday. We can show it on the Elmo also. It's Jerry says, this strike is the result of an effort to fundamentally restructure the relationship between the teachers and management represented by the school superintendent and the governor. Yeah, so this is what he says. It's not working. Here we go. Oops. Yeah. Anyway, what happened, I don't know. But high technology for you. Hawaii is banking on high technology, actually, which tells me something about, you know, I mean, all the .com crowd is going down the tubes, you know what I'm saying? So here's another elephant, you know. We're trying to catch up from the tail of the train, you see. And they think that they're going to create a big high-tech sector to compete with tourism and so on. This is like figment of the imagination, given what's really going on in the world. I mean, you know, any understanding of the global economy would show you that Hawaii is, you know, on the receiving end and so on, regardless of how many medical schools they're going to build in Kaka'ako, you know, buildings, you know, and so on, and try to attract some people with like $300,000 salaries and so on. But that is rather revealing in terms of really that people like Cayetano, and actually I think he also represents a certain sector of business, not all, because a lot of business people understand that they should support you know, K-12 education, and they should support UPA, because UPA brings into the university to Hawaii $180 million a year. You know, and research grants, etc. This is aside from the other income that, you know, the university generates for the economy and so on. It's rather mind-boggling that somebody is trying to decimate, if not destroy, public education, higher education. This is one thing that, in fact, high-tech looks at when they want to relocate. And as we shall see later, you know, Masto mentions this one in another video segment later on. But this is very interesting. Yeah. So here, you know, Jerry Burris puts his finger on something very interesting, you know, like just beyond what is happening now, so showing that there is actually a reason for Cayetano acting this way. It's not that he only hates university professors, although he does, you know, but it's something beyond that. You know, and that something is to restructure things for HSTA, and that's the same thing he wants to do for University of Hawaii. But that would be bad. Again, sacrificing the human element, you know, and all these things that Cayetano says about the Democratic Party, that it is, you know, the party that feels for the people and the poor and all that kind of stuff. But actually, he's really decimating that too, you see. So any other thoughts on that before we move on to other things?
Well, I think that's very important what Jerry Burris pointed out, because he's trying to take control of the collective bargaining process by saying that if they don't become more efficient, if they don't improve the quality, then they don't deserve the pay raise. You know, that's That's really what's made the teachers angry, because he makes it seem as if, you know, they're not good teachers and they're lazy and things like that, and isn't following the collective bargaining process. So he's basically taking it out of the power of the unions, to negotiate these contracts.
It's not, yeah, that's a good point, because it's also occurs for the professors as well,
Right.
not only
Yeah,
the merit thing. Some people will say,
workload.
okay, yeah, workload. Some people will say, okay, we give the teachers a raise, but they should have accountability, etc., as though they are not accountable now.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that argument, I mean, the people, of course, want the best thing for the kids, but they also should understand, I think this is a failing of HSTA and UPA, that they don't show what teachers are really doing, and involving the parents
Right.
a lot about what is a teacher day
Right.
look like. It looks like hell, from early in the morning getting to school till the end of it.
And they only work 9 months, and they get paid 12 months.
Yeah, they get paid
But it's
prorated.
prorated.
So it's already like payroll lag, yeah, and then he still wanted more from the teachers and from UPA. But that's an interesting
And the
thing.
other issue is
Yeah.
on the merit pay
Right.
is how do you
Determine
decide
this.
who's going to have the merit? If you do standardized testing, everybody knows the nationalized standardized test is somewhat unfair for kids raised here, but are teachers then going to teach to a test?
Yeah.
And this is the degradation of education that I see. He's not only doing it with UPA and HSTA, he would like with UPW,
The model contract.
the model contract, he wants also to have new employees start lower than present, and he wants to get rid of vacation and sick leave or reduce it.
Health-
He wants to take
health benefits.
cut them back. Retirees, chop out spouses, and reduce benefits.
Yeah.
These are major threats, I think, on working people, and because the private sector often follows the public contracts, this would weaken
Yeah.
the private sector
That's true.
unions as well.
That's very important, yeah. Another thing that's important, he, like in that letter that he rebuts you about Hawaii must move forward, and it says Hawaii is headed in the right direction. I don't know if one can say that at this point. But the other thing, he's looking at the United Public Workers Union and holding them as a model, for instance, because they gave in on this, that, or the other. So it makes me suspicious of what's happening with the United Public Workers. And also another thing is that if, for instance, what's his name, Gary Rodriguez is the head of United Public Workers, what if he becomes like an intermediary or a mediator, as he did with the HGEA when they gave their right to strike, which is really a terrible thing. No union should give its right to strike, So is it possible, for instance, that he would build up Gary Rodriguez to become a mediator, so that he would try him to give up something that they wouldn't want to give up, HSTA or UPA for that matter? Any thoughts on that? And
Well,
the danger that this lurks. I mean,
Right.
this is a lurking danger, I think.
I don't know what their game plan is, but from the way things look, HSTA and UPA are not willing to go down and follow that model at this point, and I think UHPA and HSTA are taking a stand that the social contract, the gains that the labor movement has made over the last 50 years not be lost. And I think that's what is going on right now, and the stand that the teachers and the faculty are taking.
Yeah, that's good. So we still have time, but I want to make sure we go through other video segments, because so far we showed the video segments from before the strike, but here's the first video segment on the strike, where I was picketing as well. So let's roll. What can you tell us about the picket lines in the morning and now also?
Well, it's been very strong all day long. I was pleasantly surprised to come here at 6 in the morning and find, 30, 40 people here already. So I think, the line has been very strong all day.
Yeah, so the morale is rather high, it seems.
Yeah, I think so. And we haven't really had major problem with traffic, which means that I think most of the students have heard the faculty's message and are staying home to support the strike.
What about lecturers' pay?
Oh, that's I mean, yes,
Yeah,
that's a central issue that we are.
We have about 300 some
Yes,
lecturers,
definitely.
and they haven't had a raise in a long time.
Right, definitely.
So that is also a central issue.
Yes.
What about like merit increase, merit pay and stuff like that? So any ideas? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, merit increase should be there, but I think the more important question for the strike is that everybody, not just a certain group of people, because we all have merit, we all deserve a raise, so that is more central to our struggle, I think.
In your opinion, since I understand you have observed how the negotiations were happening and so on, what do you think is driving Governor Cayetano to do what he has done thus far?
Well, it's difficult to guess what is in Governor Cayetano's mind, but it seems like there is a basic lack of understanding about what it is to maintain an institution of higher education for Hawaii and what it means to maintain a high-quality research institution, as well as what it takes to provide, high-quality education for our students.
Yeah, so here we go. I mean, we have another segment. Before we comment, I want to make sure we went to Kapiolani Community College and, we saluted the picketers there and so on. And we have a segment that would, show us what they have to say and their morale and so on. So if it's ready, let's roll. Yeah.
My name is Jeff Zuckernick. I'm an assistant professor here at Kapiolani Community College in the Department of Emergency Medical Services.
Yeah, so you started your shift what time?
At 2 o'clock this afternoon. The shift is from 2 to 5 p.m.
How is the morale?
Morale's fantastic. Everybody's pretty happy to be here in a bad respect, but everybody's pleased that they're doing their work for the union.
Yeah, and the campus is virtually shut down as far as classes.
Yeah, as you can tell if you look out, the parking lot's empty. Our community college faculty members are teaching more than what the norm is for somebody in a similar position, and we do need to adequately adjust that to reflect a good working environment.
Yeah, so, it's another view from KCC. So we have like West Oahu, Leeward, and KCC, and Manoa, and so on. I have a couple of questions from viewers. This is a student, JC student at UH. Rumor that the semester will be canceled. Who has the authority to cancel the semester? And does the Board of Regents have the authority to cancel the semester? How are the Board of Regents chosen? So, I mean, a number of questions, but basically canceling the semester, and who chooses these BOR guys, and where do they come from? Do they come from Kalihi too, or what?
Well, the Board of Regents are appointed by the governor, which makes it very interesting, because at the same time they're also supposed to be the advocates of the students and the faculty in relation to the state and the general public as a whole. But in terms of the first question of who has the authority to cancel the semester, it's really the president of the university and the Board of Regents. And as far as I know, our representatives in UPA have been meeting with with President Mortimer and a few members of the board to address those issues. And it's not our intention to cancel the semester. We really want to teach, and that's why we're really pushing to have a settlement, a fair settlement as soon as possible.
Yeah, good. So we still have some time, and before we go to the other question, and we'll get back to you, John, on that. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
If they cancel the semester, students like me and others who paid for tuition.
Yeah, that would be a disaster for
Yes.
them. Yeah,
I think they ought to refund it
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
make provision.
yeah, sure, of course.
I think either tomorrow or the next few days, UPA will begin to try to work with the student associations to begin developing forms that would request return of the tuition if it doesn't look like a settlement is imminent.
Yeah, good. So we're gonna hear this video segment. I interviewed J.N. Musto because he's not here, so I figured out I'll interview him. So the tape is ready. So it's a few minutes, like 4 or 5 minutes, but it's well worth it. Go ahead. Yeah.
The state continues to not want to increase anything for the lecturers. Give them zero increase over 4 years. Now the lecturers in our unit are people half-time or more. They make some of the lowest salaries in the system. They have no job security. They're rehired semester by semester. They have to pay for their health benefits over the summer. There's no guarantee of continuing employment. But I just ran across a woman at Kapiolani, as a matter of fact, today, who'd been a lecturer there for 12 years. These are people we've integrated into the regular program. And the university administration's view is, well, we don't have to pay them more, so why should we? They are just increasing our costs. They basically say, even though the general funds support regular full-time faculty, why should they support lecturers? I think it's an awful view. And I'm proud of the faculty. I have not met a faculty member that said, oh, heck with those people, who cares as long as we get ours. Nobody's saying that. There's not a faculty member that I have met today that hasn't said it's wrong that they don't want to give the lecturers anything.
Why is he doing this, Caetano? I mean, any ideas?
I have no ideas other than what he says in public. In some way, shape, or form, he thinks he's recreating public employment. What he seems to be doing, however, is shifting the priority of education down lower in the state. And I don't think that he is taking in any consideration the negative consequences, reactions, and so forth.
It's too bad. It's a shame, actually, that things
Well,
to this point, yeah.
at a time when Hawaii is trying to move to an economy that is more than just tourism, we are sending a message to the United States and the world that we don't hold education as our top priority. And every high-tech business that you run across, when you ask them, well, what are the important things in terms of relocating? The first thing they say is access to a quality university.
Yeah.
The second thing they say is quality public schools, K-12. And then the third thing they say is access to inexpensive land for development. And finally, tax incentives. Now, those other things, we don't have cheap land here, and in most cases not even tax incentives, but those are far down on the list. We're sending a very bad message.
So what do you think of the role of the Board of Regents in all of this? I mean, I understand they have 2 representatives on the Committee of 5,
Right.
is it, that negotiates?
Yes, but they have at least tacitly succumbed to the governor's 3 votes. He has directed them. He has said he is the employer, for instance, on issues like putting faculty on unauthorized leave of absence in order to try to take away health and retirement benefits. Now, UHPA is actually filed today a court suit against that issue. But let's look at the attitude. This is an attitude which is as harsh as any private employer could be. And we're in a public setting. I'm really aghast at it. And I'm aghast at the UH administration. They seem to want to do everything they can to break the strike. They don't need to participate that way, but they are participating like that. It's much different than the reaction from the Department of Education and the superintendent's office. They're trying to mitigate the bad effects, but not trying to
When you say the UH administration, you mean only
Bachman
people
Hall.
at Manoa, but what about the community colleges and
No,
their,
that whole
the whole thing,
the
yeah.
Chancellor's Community College is
okay.
also located in Bachman Hall.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that. In terms of Cayetano's vision, you kind of like alluded to it in terms of education. But why do you think he's going to restructure the university in such a way that would benefit more the big corporations at the expense of like liberal education?
Oh, yeah, he doesn't seem to understand that there's a greater purpose than economic development to a university. Yet the high-tech corporations understand that.
Yeah.
They're not just looking for immediate transfer. They're looking for an intellectual setting in which they can engage people in ideas. That part seems to be missing in the equation of Governor Cayetano.
Yeah, because without liberal education, it seems to me, even if you're a great engineer, you won't understand what you're going to be designing really for the society. One last question regarding Evan Dobell. Like here, they bring a top-notch guy with $442,000 a year plus a house, etc. And yet they are trying to decimate the university, if not destroy it, before this guy comes on board. So what does that tell you?
I have no idea. I do not understand what criteria were used to select Dr. Dobell. Dr. Dobell, the Board of Regents have never taken any opportunity to even introduce themselves to the leadership of UHPA. I don't know that what this portends for the future. I think it represents a notion that somehow or another, if you buy an expensive person, all right, that can substitute for the whole team. No coach, no matter how highly paid, ever won a football game. It's the players on the field. No president ever made an institution an academic success. As President Al Simone said, the university is of the faculty, for the students, and by the administration.
Well, there you go. We still have a couple of questions, but also we have a couple of minutes. So one of the questions, I think we answered it earlier, about do you feel that the UPA support of Lingle affected Cayetano's attitudes? And, we kind of answered that, but if you want to say quickly something about that in a few seconds.
Yeah, I don't know what the governor is thinking and whether or not he resents the UHPA because the majority of the board had endorsed Linda Lingle. All I can say is that as a Democratic Union, even though the board of directors endorsed Linda Lingle, I myself didn't vote for Linda Lingle, and I'm a member of the board of directors. And the governor knows that I helped in his campaign and was active in the last 2 campaigns that he had.
Yeah. Okay, so we're flat out of time, actually, just to thank our viewers for watching, and thank you, folks. And we have the last word for Cayetano, a message from a dear friend.
Say his semester.
So there it goes. So, so that's all. What can I say? Yeah, so anyway, we have a few questions later on. We can ask them and so on. Okay. Yeah. So thank you, folks, for coming, and thanks for watching. Take it easy.